Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bikinis After Babies. Thank you so much for joining us today. As always, I am one of your hosts, Mandy Rashawn, here with your other host, IFBB Bikini Pro, Jillian Hughes.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We have such a special treat. I've been really excited about today's episode, so thank you so much for joining us. Today, we are joined by IFBB Bikini Pro Marisa Ross, who is a wife and a mother of three. Marisa earned her IFBB Pro card at her second competition, NPC Masters Nationals, in 2023.
Oh,
Marisa
24.
developed
In
24,
24. Yeah.
2024. 2024. Um, Marisa developed a love for a bodybuilding lifestyle in her teenage years, but it wasn't until she escaped an abusive marriage, navigated life as a single mom, and overcame the challenges associated with menopause that she finally pursued what was a lifelong dream of getting on stage. After winning her pro card, Marisa wasted no time hitting the pro stage and took home a pro win at the Klash Championships, winning the Masters Pro 50 Plus division. We've had numerous requests to have Marisa on our show, so I'm just so excited for her to be here today and share all about her journey. Welcome to Bikinis After Babies, Marisa Ross.
Thank you. And you know what? That's my old lady brain. You were right. It is 23. That's how, oh my gosh.
I was like, wait a minute, I was there in 24.
You
I
are
don't
so
know.
right. Oh my gosh, that was fun.
That's okay.
Wow.
No worries.
Yeah.
No, the
Yeah.
details don't matter. You're amazing either way. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much. Like I said, we've had several requests for you to come on, and I think that you are, a great representation of the sport and then also
you.
like rocking the Masters 50 category. So I'm
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
excited to
Thank
learn more
you.
about your journey. So one of the things we usually like to start with is, can you tell us a little bit about where you got started in fitness?
Wow. Okay, we have to go way back because uh it, and I apologize to anybody who's heard this story before, but I was 16. And I don't know if I was in a library or a bookstore, probably a bookstore, and saw Rachel McClish, who was the OG, very first Miss Olympia. She had a book, Perfect Parts. And I actually was looking for that book. I have it still
I
to this
have it
day.
somewhere too. I have
Yeah.
it.
And I saw it on a shelf. And okay, so I have a Mexican background, and literally my family were gardeners, right? And my mom was an educator. Nobody went to the gym. It was unheard of. I opened that book and it spoke to me. I just knew I wanted to look like that. And so I bought the book and got a job, got a gym membership, and have been training ever since. And I had always wanted to step on stage, but life gets in the way. I got married at 25, was training. Back then, they only had fitness and bodybuilding. I was training for my fitness show and I got pregnant. And so, yeah. And, who thought I didn't even think at that low of body fat I could even get pregnant, but got pregnant. And then 3 children later, um, just had to put that dream aside, but was always in the gym. Even when I was a single mom, if it was 1 in the morning, I was in the gym, lived the lifestyle the whole time. And it wasn't until my very sweet husband at 50 said, you need to check this item off your bucket list,
Yeah.
And I just, sorry if I'm going into the whole story, but
No, it's great.
I honestly thought I was too old. I had gone through menopause by 46. I was done. I had gained a lot of weight. For me, I'm 5'2", so 30 pounds. Was unhappy, was kind of depressed, just didn't feel right anymore. And I thought, how am I ever going to step on stage? That dream has gone. But I really, through this process, found myself again. And so at 50, almost 51, stepped on stage for the first time at Patriots Challenge and entered 7 classes.
Oh my
Yeah,
Yes.
everything from true novice to 50.
Everything you could.
Yeah.
Yep. All 7.
And I won everything except for open. I got second.
Oh,
my
wow.
gosh.
That had to
Yeah.
be so nuts for your first time wanting it for so long.
Oh no! And to have 2 of my other one was in college in Wisconsin, but I had 2 of my children there, and see, this gonna make me tear up. Seeing the pride in their faces for their mother. You know, we're always supporting them. We live our
Yeah.
lives for our children.
Yeah.
And we're always there at their games, and we're always there at their school and supporting them and hyping them up. But to listen and hear my children screaming for me was just made everything worth it. That was more important to me than winning. But
Yeah.
then like to actually win and get 2 overalls, it was mind blowing. Like I just didn't expect any of that. Like I was just happy to be on stage, you know?
Yeah.
That literally was the most important thing to me. Yeah. But it was a dream come true.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's like such a great story of like a first show, especially having something that you like anticipated for so long. So I want to go back because I'm curious to know like how did
Sure.
you get out of that thought of I'm too old? Was there an inspiration or someone that said like, "No, girl, like you can do it." Like where did that change for you?
Yeah, it was really my friends in the gym and my husband, you know, they just kept pushing me. They kept saying, "You already look like a competitor." And this kind of goes back to why, you know, like I kind of don't like to talk about the two show pro thing because I mean, I don't because I know how hard women work.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't want to, that's like gloating to me. To me, I was in prep my whole life.
Yeah.
Really, I had been training for this my entire life. It wasn't
Yeah.
something that just happened, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was my friends in the gym telling me, "You look like a competitor, you know, just try, you know, just get up there." Because you know, I knew I would regret it if I didn't just try.
Yeah.
So it was just getting out of that mindset, you know, and really, I think trying to regain myself
Hmm.
mentally, emotionally, which I feel like I lost through menopause. You know, it's you lose a sense of self. My children were adults, they're gone. So I was an empty nester.
Hmm.
Um, you know, that kind of changes everything. The hormones change everything. You know, I felt like I was going crazy, honestly, with, and this is pre hormone therapy. So I
Yeah.
did start hormone therapy at 50, even though I had gone through menopause by 46. So it was 4 years of doctors telling me, it's just menopause, just suck it up, you
Yeah.
know? And that's an unfortunate mentality. And I
Yeah.
think there's so many women out there that suffer in so many ways because of that old school thinking. And it wasn't till I had learned a little bit. So I'm a librarian by trade and I love to research. And so I just started researching on my own and started hormone therapy. And that changed everything because I felt human again.
Yeah.
You felt
Everything
yourself.
cleared
Yeah.
up. Yeah, I felt like myself again. And then with everybody pushing me on and then feeling great again, I was like, I can do this. You know, I can do this. And I put all my energy into it. And I warned my husband because he was not a bodybuilder. He had no idea what it was going to take. Like,
Yeah.
you have no clue. But, you know, he supported me 100% through it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. You had such a good circle of friends. Like that's
Oh,
amazing that
really?
you had that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm blessed and grateful every day for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think like it's so important to look at like everyone's history when they get up on that stage. Like, and I think women are taking more time to prepare for, these divisions, especially, well, and now we have Fit Model, which changes the game, of course, but like people understand what the judges are looking for. So they do take more time and budget wise too. It's a big investment of your money and of your time.
Very
So,
expensive.
it's
Yeah.
not just like, let me see how it goes. Like, I think people
Yeah.
do really spend years now, like preparing. So I don't think that, the two show pro is, I think that's something to be really proud of. It shows that you studied the craft, you really brought your best. And for some people that takes a long time to really figure out. So, good village behind you and then lots of, all that research.
Oh, well,
So,
and then I had been to every single Olympia since the 90s.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
like, I
Oh,
just was
wow.
part of it, you know? Like, I
Yeah.
just loved it. It's just, you know, it's in
I
my
bet
soul.
there was probably people who were surprised that you hadn't competed before, like having seen you in the industry and in the gym and stuff, like probably thinking that you
Oh,
were
totally.
already. Yeah.
Yeah. And even so, Sandy Williamson was the head judge at Patriots Challenge when my very first show. When I went back for feedback, she came and she found me and she was just like, you need to explain to me how you've never stepped on stage before. Like, and then I told her this story. And of course, because Sandy always cries. I made
Yeah.
her cry. But
I
meeting
love
her
her.
too was like God for me. She's like God, you know. I just was
Yeah.
like the whole thing was just like this surreal experience. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just because I had lived it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember
Uh-huh.
the first time I ran into Sandy, same thing. I was like, "It's you." Like
Yep.
I legit ran into her on accident. And I was like, I turned a corner and I ran into her and I was like, "It's you." She's like, "Yeah?" I was like, "No, it's like you." Because we're completely like just walking down a hotel, like,
Yeah.
and yeah, I was like, "No, it's you." And we hugged and all that fun stuff. But she's so
I was
sweet.
so starstruck. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I saw her at the airport when I was, it was Masters Nationals, like, not
Yeah.
this last one, the one before, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, it's her," you know? And then my husband was like, "Go talk to her, go talk to her." I'm like, "No, I'm gonna say something dumb." I was so nervous.
Oh, to go back, just a little side note, and it's funny because I just remembered this story with my husband, and I apologize. I'm a little nasally. Allergies out here are so
Oh,
bad right now. The wind in California has been bad, but um, one other little thing that kind of convinced me that I could do it was I went to the Fit Expo. I guess this would have been in 22 or 23 in LA, and that was when Maureen was the reigning Miss Olympia, and she was there, and I saw her and was coming off the stage, all the wine was all gone. And I had an opportunity to say something to her, but I almost didn't feel worthy at that time. I was still in that old frame of mind.
Yeah.
But I saw her, and although, I mean, amazing, she's one of my idols, but beautiful shape, beautiful skin. Uh, but she wasn't as big as I thought she was in
Yeah.
my brain. And I thought, I can do that. It
yeah.
just made it more attainable seeing her in person because I think so many of us look online and at these pictures and everybody looks so jacked and
Yeah.
big and their glutes are massive and but seeing her in person definitely made it and up close made it feel much more attainable.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
true. I don't think a lot of people realize that. And I mean, if you don't go to shows where there are pros, then you wouldn't experience it in person, and you just think
Right.
that it's not attainable. But I think anybody can strive for that for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So tell me what it was like then going from Patriots to
Oh,
Masters Nationals, and then
wow.
what was the time difference between those shows?
two
Two
weeks
weeks.
2
two
weeks?
weeks I believe it
Oh,
was. It was 2 weeks or a month, but I want to say 2 weeks. Um so the woman that works the front desk. So I'm part of Team Body Bio. Her name is
Uh,
Kat. And she had literally said before I did Patriots, you might want to think about booking Masters Nationals. And I was, there's no way. But then Sandy had said the same thing. She said, you need to go. And so went, booked everything last minute. And I think I had to stay at a hotel like really far away too, because everything was booked.
yeah.
I took one step into that hotel in Pittsburgh and I wanted to run away crying because I saw and my husband was with me and I just turned to him and I said, I don't belong here. I just was so intimidated because Masters Nationals is a big deal. And I don't think I understood how big of a deal it is and how many amazing athletes show up to that
Yeah.
show. I mean, everybody's a rock star, everyone. And so, I decided to go hide in my room and know and tell myself that I belong there
Mhm.
and that if anything, I just wanted to go and have fun, just like I did the first show. It was really just like dancing on stage for me. It was an opportunity to just go and do this sport that I had wanting to do for so long and just have fun. And that changed everything in my brain. I was no longer thinking about everybody else. It just was the same mentality I had with that first show. And that's kind of how I approach every show now.
Yeah.
I try to stay off Instagram really. I'm my own competition. I just look at it like dancing. So went up on stage and then here I am. Yeah, I think I did everything from I think I did 35 too, but I didn't place in 35, but I did 40, 45, and 50 and I won my 50 and I honestly can't remember what I got in 45 and 40, but I placed there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
And
and once again, it was like mind blowing. Like I was just in shock.
yeah,
Yeah. And they made a mistake. you know?
clearly not. I think that's
Good.
such good advice because I think so
It
many
is.
people, like, they have anticipated, thought about it for a very
Yeah.
long time, and we're coaches, so we have so many clients that kinda go through the same thing of, like,
Right.
I think imposter syndrome is what you wanna refer
Hmm.
to it as, or just sort of
Totally.
feeling like, "No, this is for somebody else, like, I don't belong here," and so I
Right.
think that's a really good reflection of just, like, just have a good time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
see what happens.
Just have fun. And I've
Yeah.
seen so many other women backstage, and they're so nervous and
Mhm.
so shook by this experience. And maybe that doesn't make me a good competitor, but I'm more about supporting women, and I'll just start talking to them and just remind them how hard they worked and like they've waited for this moment. So why not ruin it, but make it a downer for themselves
Yeah.
and just turn that nervousness into excitement and just go enjoy the experience that they worked so hard for. Let's
Yeah.
dance. We'll just dance backstage.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
seeing that backstage when all the girls like help each other, cheer each other
Yeah.
on, screaming. I expedited for 2 years.
Okay.
And so it was really fun to be able to be like, you girls look great. Everybody looks amazing. And they're just like,
Exactly.
you amplify and they're so happy and ecstatic. And I know, like Jillian
Besides,
said, yeah,
yeah.
like we have so many competitors. And it's like, you guys, when you're backstage, like some of these people that you may meet may be your best friends for like
Yeah.
your whole life and it's insane and they're so supportive and they'll follow your journey, you'll follow theirs and
Exactly.
you might be at their wedding.
And just cheer them on in life.
Hmm.
Life is not easy, and just this is supposed to be the fun part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you've definitely proven that you're, a hard worker and you're
Hmm.
resilient and, you've gone after big goals. And so, I kind of wanted to circle around a
Sure.
little bit and talk about
Yeah.
sort of like motherhood and, being in a relationship that was toxic, dealing with abuse, and sort of how you found the courage to be able to remove yourself from that situation and, take on the challenge of starting a new life as a single mom.
Sure. It was not easy, you know. Oh, yeah. That instantly came back.
Yeah.
Um and to be honest, I'm in therapy right now because I still am processing all of that. It just never kind of leaves.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I was in a marriage for almost 20 years. That was extremely abusive in every which way, extended to my poor children, and uh, I was financially controlled, emotionally controlled, every which way, and not no help to get out. And so it just took some planning. It took a couple of pretty dramatic events that included me and my children, for me to get the courage enough to say, I don't, I don't care if I'm broke. I don't care if we are living in one little studio apartment, if that's all I can afford, but we need to get out. And so my kids were, I want to say, 10 to 13. So I had three in 3 years, back to back to back. So they were close in age. And uh, it took a long time to get through that. And I actually ended up having to sign away my right to spousal support for him to let go of everything and say, okay, you can go now. And I got full custody of my children, which is honestly all I wanted.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just wanted to know they were safe. I wanted to know that they could be happy and not screamed at every day. And so that was the most important thing. And you just start over. I think so many people focus too much on, the how am I going to get there and what's going to happen instead of just taking action.
Yeah.
The how and all of that, it's going to change. It might be one way one day, another day, and it's not going to be easy, but you just have to make up your mind that you deserve better.
Yeah.
And yeah, the family deserved better. So,
Yeah. I think that's so hard for women to just feel like they deserve more, their
yeah,
self-worth, their self-efficacy, and to
yeah,
lose that, and then in the process of not
exactly.
having that, and then you're like, I have to have it for like my family, my kids. That
Exactly.
has to be so hard. I think that's very inspiring that you were
Yeah.
able to do that for yourself and your kids.
Well, you were exactly right. Through that process, narcissistic people just tend
Mhm.
to pick people that they know that they can control, and they diminish your self-worth. And so you feel this big and you don't feel capable, you don't feel worthy, but you are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just fundamentally are.
Mhm.
And so one thing that really helped me, and I'm actually going to go see him tonight, which is funny. I don't know what you'd call him, but his name is Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you've read his books, but
Mm.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about mindset,
Mhm.
right? And the ego and not taking things personally and being present and being grateful. And I started this gratefulness practice every morning. And this is even when he was still around. But this was towards the end. And I really truly believe this helped me. Every morning I'd wake up for 10 minutes before I get out of bed. I still do it to this day. I focus on whatever I'm grateful for. It could be that my kid took out the trash. It could be that it's a sunny day. It could be that we didn't get screamed at yesterday. It could be I have a roof over my head. I have food in my mouth, whatever it is. But that process realigned my thinking and really taught me to focus on what was important
Mhm.
and not what was extraneous and negative. And it really helped me turn that day into a positive experience instead of a negative. I didn't want to be my story anymore. I was
Yeah.
the at home wife, mother who was abused, and I didn't want to be that anymore. I wanted to turn it into something positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
I can't thank you enough for sharing that because I think
Yeah.
that's so like powerful with your story too. And like, if we only focus on all the highlights and the pro card
no,
and the wins, then I
right.
think it's like that, you've had a journey to get here and it took a lot of strength. It takes a lot of strength to compete, but also to really even find the courage to want more for yourself and to want
Mhm.
a different life. And like you say, when you're beaten down emotionally and physically as well, it's hard to even think that you even deserve. That's sort of the nature of how that works.
Or that it's even possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think your story is like just, it's very inspiring to
Thank
people
you.
who are maybe they're in it, maybe they're in the midst of sort of
Mhm.
getting out and wondering, what the future is going to hold or feeling very scared about what things could look like. And, I think it provides a lot of hope and inspiration for people. And here you are just like living your best life. Like
Yeah.
I
when we,
am. I swear to you. I
yes,
say
you
that
are.
all the time. And I literally cry about that all the time. And not in a bad way. Like people see, I'm not an emotional person, but when I start talking about how, like, I am truly living my best life,
Yeah.
I am so humbled and grateful and blessed in every which way. And I honestly, and I know this sounds like just a cliche, I would not change anything of my past. And there's so much more, but all the difficult road led me here and gave me this mindset of positivity and gratefulness. And I think when you have that mindset, not to get all philosophical, but I really believe that it changes everything around you.
Yeah.
You start to attract more positivity. And I just
Mhm.
see that from myself. When I was in that negative space and feeling down and always negative, it just got more and more of the same. But then the moment it changed, all the great things started coming. And not that it doesn't take work, it takes work every day, a lot of it, but it makes it way more enjoyable, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
that moment in your day where you're like, this is my life and
Yes.
and you're grateful for it, like
Yeah.
that you did it, like you worked and got yourself there. And
Totally.
it I can't probably convey enough how many people will listen to this and be like, oh my gosh, like she did that. Not just, oh, she got her pro card, not that you got, not just that you did like one thing, but you did multiple things for yourself, your kids, for the sport that you love, to meet the man of your dreams now and live such a happy
Yeah.
life. And
Yeah.
so many people will listen and just be like, if she can do it, like maybe I can too.
It
And I
is all
just
possible. It is, and
Mhm.
I am literally testament of that. It is,
Yeah.
anything is, I truly believe anything is possible. You just have to want it bad enough,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
true.
believe that it's possible.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's huge too.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, would be surprised to know because I think social media is like, we put out our best stuff and I feel like for me, it's because I'm just a positive person. So I don't really like to I don't want to bring anybody down with like whatever's, not
Sure.
great,
Yeah.
but I also don't want for people to think that that just means everything's like hunky dory and super easy and it didn't take
Right.
a lot of, you know, stress and strife to get, where I am. So I think that, it's nice to have a platform like this to be able to share
Yeah.
more about your story because it's so
Hmm.
Exactly.
inspiring, motivating
Yeah.
for anybody, like,
Yeah.
for women just getting started, for, women that are, coming back to the stage, all ages. So I appreciate you sharing that with us
Yeah.
today.
Every day. And, even in the moment, we don't, every day is not perfect and we all have our difficult moments. I mean, it's just life. Like right now, I'll give you a little backstory. My husband, who competed in his very first show, I sucked him in.
What do you
Yes, I
compete
love it.
in?
So he competed in men's physique he did two shows, March of last year, the Ribic Productions, who I cannot say enough good things about. I love their shows. The second one was Emerald Cup that I did, and so he did the amateur one, and I did the pro one, and he won his age class. Like he did so great, and I'm so proud of him. But and he was going to go to Masters Nationals, and then all of a sudden health took over, negative health stuff, and we've been dealing with that ever since. We found out he's got an issue going on with his heart, and that was the start of it all. So I think through the cut and all of that, we kind of exacerbated what was going on, but thank God for that because we found out what was wrong.
Yeah.
But he's been in and out of the hospital, and that's been kind of difficult and trying. And does that mean I put my goals aside and just focus on my husband right now? But typical my husband, he's like, nope, we can
Mhm.
do this, we can do it all. And you just take every day as it comes and
Yeah.
do the most you can. And sometimes, we were in the hospital. Am I going to go train? No, and that's okay. And I'm not going to sit there and beat myself up about it. Just take care of my husband. And then the day will come when I can get back in the gym,
Mhm.
and that's all right.
Right.
And if that means I don't make it to the show I'm planning on, that's okay too.
I think that's a very strong message because I know I
Mhm.
talk to a lot of women, and when they have a hiccup in their schedule, and a lot of them are newer competitors or just not as seasoned, when they have something that happens in life, whether a kid is sick, snowstorm,
Right.
and it messes up their schedule, they panic and feel like even
Mhm.
though they're like 15 weeks out from a show, 10 weeks, 8 weeks, they're like my whole everything's ruined. And it's like no, no, it's just
Yeah.
you take one day at a time, don't stress about it. You might have to move your workout. You might be able to miss it. It's
Yeah.
okay. Focus on the day. Don't stress out about it, especially if like someone is sick. Like pay
Right.
attention to them, give to them, and then see how the next day goes and the next day. It's a very positive, it's a very, very strong message that you're sending, being a pro athlete and saying that.
Well, I'm proud of you for being a coach and sending that message to your
Mhm.
athletes because there's not a lot of coaches I think that say that. But as a mom,
Mhm.
we understand that there's just a lot going on. We're juggling a lot of balls at once, and
Yeah.
that's okay. And I hate to say this because I don't mean it the way it's going to sound. It's not just a sport. It's not just a hobby. I get that, but your family is your family.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we have to remember that those are priorities. So
Mhm.
keep everything in perspective, I think is a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a way to if life throws a curveball, like
Yeah.
I think some people's instant reaction is like, well, that's a sign. And then they, will fall off
Totally.
their diet and then they, undo a bunch of hard work that they've put in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't know that it has to be that way. Like, at the end of the day, Mandy and I always say this, like, this is like self-care, like the alternate for me is
Right.
eating not great and not feeling good and not showing up as my best
Yeah.
self. I know that I
Totally.
can't, keep up with everybody if I'm not taking care of myself. So that
Hmm.
is not really an option, but I think
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of people kind of resort to, like is a bad
Agreed.
habit or something,
Yeah.
which doesn't really help us, right?
Yeah. Just remember you're doing it for yourself and your family, right? To
Yeah.
take care of yourself, go to the gym, eating well. But if that moment happens where for whatever reason you can't, don't beat yourself about it either. And don't self implode, right? And go
Yeah.
Yeah.
off the deep end either.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's a good message as well. Um, so I want to talk a little
Yes.
bit about menopause.
Oh, sure. Honestly, it's one of my favorite topics. See, you say
I
that
love
like
talking about
that,
it too.
but I love talking about it because I'm so freaking proud that I am where I am and having gone through that, especially how like unhappy I was. But it's a
Yeah.
good topic. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, because what you commonly hear, or what is said is just, oh, well, everything changes after this age, or
Yeah.
you can't lose weight after this age. You can't put muscle on after this age. And clearly, that is not fact.
Right.
So, I think maybe just sort of like a good place to start would be like, because you've lived the
Yeah.
competitor lifestyle even before you hit the
Uh-huh.
stage. You were active in the gym, you were taking care of your diet. So like what were some of the first things that you noticed and how did that impact that lifestyle?
Yeah. So perimenopause for me started around 41. That's when I started noticing some changes.
Mhm.
Uh, but really hit me hard at 44. And supposedly, the doctors, because that was early, that wasn't typical in my family either. It was like mid 50s. So when it started happening to me, I was in shock. It really threw me for a curve. Like I said, I just started noticing memory issues. I started noticing my skin changing. Um, the biggest one though was I had always been able to control my weight. I knew what to eat. I knew what not to eat. Like I said, I lived the bodybuilder lifestyle. I maintained a healthy weight, usually not too lean, not, too much on the other side. And all of a sudden, right around the middle, from yeah, just waist to the hips, things started adding on and growing. And I had never had the belly rolls and I was still eating the same, so I was frustrated. I just thought, okay, this is just how it's going to be. Especially you having gone to my gynecologist and then another gynecologist and my general practitioner and asking them these questions and them all saying, well, yeah, it's going to be a rough few years, but once you get through it, you'll be fine. I kept doing my research and I found a hormone therapy doctor. And I guess that would have been right at 49, 50. I'd been through menopause and nothing was getting better. It was getting worse.
Yeah.
The brain fog. I had never had anxiety. I started having panic attacks. Um, what else? Like the weight gain, I said 30 pounds. To me, that was a lot. I didn't fit in my clothes anymore.
Yeah.
I was depressed and then went to this hormone doctor and he put me on what I felt through my research was the best route
Yeah.
was bioidentical creams. And because he treats it like a cycle. So estrogen peaks, comes down, progesterone peaks, comes down. Some women who are even in menopause, I guess, on this protocol actually get their period back.
Oh wow.
Yeah, isn't that insane? I
Yeah.
know. I have not. So because of that, I guess it's a little bit of a concern in my doctor's mind that he doesn't want to build up in my uterus. So I get ultrasounds done every 3 to 6 months just to make sure everything's good. And uh, I'm not joking, within 2 days, 3 days of taking estrogen, the fog lifted
Wow.
and the brain started clearing. I felt like I was human again.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's the best way I can describe it. I just felt human, like normal.
Yeah.
Because I was I don't want to say like, I don't want to say this like in a way that's going to be taken the wrong way, but I almost was a little suicidal. I
Yeah.
just was really down, and I had everything around me to be grateful for. Even by that point, I had already I had met my husband, but I just knew things weren't right, and
Yeah.
everything was wrong. But the moment those hormones got back in my system, it started regulating. We've adjusted along the way, and we all still adjust to this day. It, it's night and day difference, and I can't promote it and enough. I just feel
Yeah.
like the old mentality. So there was the original study that was done, right, and it was extrapolated on women who were in, I think, in their 70s, and they were given these hormones after decades of not having them, and then that caused issues for them. Well, you
Mhm.
can't, it's apples and oranges, right?
Yeah.
So now the mentality, thank God, has changed. And I think hormone therapy is definitely becoming more mainstream. You can give a man a blue pill,
Yeah.
but we couldn't give women hormones to make them feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just doesn't seem fair to me, but it's getting better. It's changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like the old way of thinking for I mean, decades of just
Yeah.
you go to your doctor, that's what your doctor says, and that's it. You're done.
Right.
Like, and the more, and I know the more episodes of this we do, the more people we go out, meet, you hear these stories, and it's like, I feel like the sport of bodybuilding really makes us be our, like, the best self advocates because
No,
we
true.
just don't take it we're like, no, that's not the right answer. We'll figure it out. Like, and
That's
we'll
right.
keep going. And I always see that in like people that have been in bodybuilding for a while. And it's like, we're going to figure this out somehow, some way. We're going to figure this out. And
Yeah.
I know we had a pelvic floor, excuse me, therapist on here, a little while ago. And I loved how she said, after kids, you can't go jumping, you leak, and you'd go to a doctor and they'd be like, oh, that's normal. That's
Yeah.
just what you have to do. And it's like, no, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to
Mhm.
stop this stigmatism
And
of
I'm
like,
so happy
like,
about that.
yeah, like, no, we'll go to a hormonal doctor. We'll go to an endocrinologist. We'll go to a holistic doctor, a therapist, whatever it may be that, you
Hmm.
need. But I love that, like, you were really great at advocating for yourself to find a solution. And like you said, you've been doing this like, you've been in the bodybuilding world your whole life,
Yeah.
even though you
My whole
haven't
life.
stepped on stage. And that's a
Yeah,
big part of it, like managing your hormones, figuring out your hormones.
for
Because how
sure.
I mean, a lot of athletes, I feel like almost every athlete at some point takes time off from the stage to figure out their hormones,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and you
No,
just
it's
did it
after.
before.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I even tell girls, especially a lot of girls in the gym, that which I'm so excited about because bodybuilding is becoming so much more mainstream, and I'm just
Mhm.
so happy about it. It just excites me. I
Yeah.
see girls flexing in the mirror. just yeah, you gotta love it. And I push them to go further, but or step on stage. But I will even warn them, even in their 20s,
Yep.
I'm kind of the mom, I just can't take that out of my personality. But
Yeah.
not to play Debbie Downer, but with birth control pills, that affects your hormones, or
Yes.
if they're taking PEDs, that's
Mhm.
affecting your hormones, and especially now, there's so many teenagers on PEDs, which scares the heck out of me. But if you're gonna do it, then get your hormones checked.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so simple. I think people are afraid to tell their doctor, "Oh, I'm doing this or I'm doing that," and this is that. Then you need to find a different doctor if they give you a negative attitude. Just
Mhm.
keep finding, look for the doctor because there's so many more that are willing to work with you nowadays. Just be honest, get the blood work, make sure you're healthy because that's of the utmost importance
Yeah.
at whatever stage of life you're in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the research is really important too, and I think, like, where a lot of women struggle is because 'cause they're like, "Oh, I've bought so many things and they don't work for me," and da, 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 and I'm not talking about, like, clicking add to cart on TikTok. I'm talking about doing research and, like, actually looking into what is causing this? What are the different solutions? What is going on with my body? Like, really just looking into, like, the root cause of these things. Like, the information is out there. Anything you wanna learn is on the internet for free right now.
Right.
So, just don't.
And don't just look to your influencers to give you the
Yeah,
answers. You actually have to look for
Really.
scientific research.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It exists and there's so many great solutions out there. And
totally.
so, So I think like one thing that kind of ties into that is where I'll commonly hear from people is, oh, well, I don't know if it's going to be possible to get on stage after menopause. And I know that's not true because I've gone to
Here we
Masters
are.
Nationals
Yeah.
7 times and I see all the women in the, 50, 60 class. I'm like, I'm pretty sure
Oh,
it's possible to do anything at any
oh,
age. So
Hmm.
what do you say
there's so
when you hear
many
stuff like that?
60-year-old rock stars. Yeah, never too late. That's kind of my mantra now. Whatever it is that you want to do, it's never too late. You just have to want it. You have to want it bad enough. And yeah, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. The weight didn't just come off. It does. You made a comment before about, oh, it's harder, after menopause. It is. It's no joke. I am not going to fluff that and go, it's just as easy, or not that it was easy in my 20s, but it's a lot easier in your 20s, 30s, and even 40s than it is in your 50s. But I think, and as you get older, it just gets exponentially harder. So that's why I don't gain a lot of weight in
Mhm.
between or when I'm on my off season. I try to keep it within a 10-pound range because I know it's going to be extremely hard for me to get that off.
Yeah.
So it's just being smart about your approach, and giving yourself more time. So if instead of doing a 12-week prep, maybe it's going to take you 16 weeks, or maybe it's going to take you 20 weeks, and that's okay. You know, I think so many people worry about the deprivation side of that, but you're also caring for yourself by giving yourself the allowance to have more time and not the
Hmm.
pressure. Right.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you take
So,
longer,
Yep.
I think to me, knowing that because that's my approach as well, I don't
yeah.
look at it like, oh, that's 20 weeks of deprivation. When I look at a shorter prep, I think that is going to
Yeah.
suck because that's going
Oh,
to
the
be,
cardio is going to be horrible.
yeah, eight
Yeah.
to 10 weeks of just absolute hell because I didn't give myself enough time. But
Right.
I think you're right, like taking that time because then you can come in a healthier way because what I've found as I've gotten older is just like I don't respond well to stress. Like I can't I used to do 3 hours of cardio a day and
Yeah.
all the stuff like that. I
Right.
know what that does to me. It'll affect my sleep. My body will run in the other direction. Like I will
Totally.
gain doing that. So I think I'm the same way. I don't let my not that I don't let myself, but I really try to manage my off season because I don't want to have to do what I have to do to lose 20
Hmm.
pounds in my
Exactly.
mid 40s.
Yeah. And I've
So,
learned too in that same thing, you have, like you just said, you have to learn what works for you. And as you
mhm,
get older, you kind of figure that out. I think a lot more, but things do change. But like cardio, for example, instead of going all out, 160 beats per minute, for 40 minutes, I cannot do that anymore. My
mm-mm,
joints, everything hurts. So I do it for calories. I don't do it for time,
yeah.
right? I'm not killing myself. So if I want to burn 600 calories, okay, I might have to do an hour of walking in the morning and an hour of walking, or, I split it up throughout the day.
Mhm.
I don't do it all at once anymore. Or I might do a few sprints here and there, but I just, you know, the pain that it causes wasn't
Hmm.
worth it to me.
Yeah. And it doesn't produce a great
No,
result either because then you're burned
cortisol
out.
just
Yeah.
goes, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious then, like, what is your approach? Because you turned pro and then you competed on a pro stage within like a month,
Yeah.
um, 2 month or two. You did
Yeah.
Sasquatch, I think, like
I
after you
did
got
in
your pro card.
September.
I did
Yeah,
my
from July to
research.
September. So I think that was, yeah, 3 months time. Yeah, getting the
Yeah.
new routine. But I really wanted to get on stage to see what I needed to do to progress,
Yeah.
to get better. I wanted to get that feedback up on a pro stage.
So what was that feedback? I'm very
It's
Yeah.
curious.
always the same.
Is it?
It's always more glutes. And that's really just always been the feedback for me. It's just denser glutes. And and honestly, that goes back to, I think, my age group in the 90s when I was in my 20s, growing glutes was not a thing. You
Hmm.
Mm-mm.
know, it was tiny, small bottoms. That's what was the appealing look.
Hmm.
Now it's just which I
Yeah.
love. I love the dense glutes, but I hadn't ever worked on it. And for me, it was, I think I'm like a typical guy. I hate to say that, but like I love working upper body. I love shoulders. I love back, which you don't need the back for bikini, but Yeah, so the feedback was always glutes, and that's what we have been killing myself for over the last six. I can't even remember. It was Sasquatch was the last one, so September. Since September,
Yeah.
the focus has been all glutes.
Yeah.
Boots.
Yeah,
That's so true though, because when we were like, I'm 36, Jillian's mid 40s, you're in your 50s. I feel like when we were all growing up, like that
yeah,
was always it, a double zero,
yeah,
tiny, tiny, and
Abs, small.
yeah.
yeah.
Abs,
And
yeah,
your arms needed to be like little
yeah,
tiny skinny, like
yeah,
don't have a tricep, don't have a delt.
yeah.
And it's crazy how it is because
Yeah.
you're so right. I have quite a few friends from just the gym world that are in their 20s, and it is like they just go ham on their glutes.
Right? Yeah, hip
I know.
thrusts for days,
For
just like yeah,
days. Yeah, that's so
I
true.
know. It's
It's so true.
crazy. I
yeah. But I
remember
love
like
it.
Hmm.
when I first got like an actual statue trophy,
Yeah.
because before that I had gotten swords and stuff, and I was sitting eating
I'm jealous.
breakfast.
I always wanted the sword. They
Yeah.
don't do that anymore out here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I imagine too, like this was all local, but I mean, you can't get them on a plane either. So I think they kind of
Yeah.
stopped doing
Yeah,
like
that's true.
weapons, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I was eating breakfast and I looked at her and she's got like this like gorgeous bum. And I
Yeah.
remember just being huh, like, oh, I guess that's what like they want.
It
And
won't.
it
Yeah.
blows my mind now because I'd already at that point been competing for like 4 or 5 years, but it just wasn't like what we felt. I'm like, what were we doing in the gym? Like all these like
Oh,
squats and all these things I'm doing now. I'm like, was I doing these? Like, I'd love
it
to
was
see my
like a lot of
training.
plyometric stuff,
Yes.
Yes.
so that you
Yes.
have like very which is not my favorite word in the world. I'll be honest, I really dislike the word toned. But
Yeah.
that was the mentality. Just have toned legs and glutes and just,
That's
small.
exactly it. I remember
Yeah.
now. I
I
used to
remember
like set a
jumping
little
around.
step in the
Hmm.
Yeah.
step room and like there'd
Yeah. You
be
remember
nobody
like
in
the
there.
aerobics,
Yeah.
we're just all doing aerobics back
Yeah,
then.
just
Yeah.
a bunch of hopping jump squat things. Like never in the squat rack. I don't even think I ever did a hip
Yeah.
thrust until I don't even know how long ago. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. The evolution is really cool. And
Hmm.
earlier you talked about Rachel McClish, and
Yeah.
I pulled her up like to show my husband, and
Yeah.
he was like, that was like Miss Olympia. Like she was like Miss Olympia 1980,
I,
1982,
yeah.
and like the
Bikini
conditioning
girls to this day are way bigger
way
than
bigger and more
she
ripped.
ever was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's cool. Like I feel like in a lot of ways what I love about bodybuilding is like you can really just design your own body. Like we're biohacking, but we're also like,
Oh yeah.
sculpting
We're
things that we want to.
sculpting. We are
Mhm.
sculptors. I love that. Yeah. We got to
Yeah.
work on the glutes. Okay. Well, let's focus target our training around that. And how are we going to do that? And I love the process of that.
Yeah.
It's a
Me too.
challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a couple of very big goals for yourself for this
Yeah.
year. I happen to know when your next show is because you told me on Instagram. I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
share it or not. And then you have another big goal. So would you like to share with our audience
Yeah.
what you're
So
striving for this year?
I am, the big goal for me. See, it just makes me want to cry. I'm
I'm
not
gonna
this
cry
emotional, I
too.
swear. But this is how important this goal is to me. I want to make Masters Olympia. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's, I could die a happy woman at that point, just right then and there. Yeah, stepping on that stage is, and I don't want to say more important than anything because that's not true, but like part of this journey, like it's just, I have worked really hard to try to be good enough for that.
Yeah.
Um and I'm going to just mention this. I am so grateful to the IFBB for bringing it back.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
for us, otherwise the epitome would have been just, yeah, doing 50 and over, 55, 60 and older. But I love the fact that we have Masters Olympia that celebrates the longevity of the sport because
Yeah.
we matter too.
Hmm.
But I will say that I was heartbroken, honestly heartbroken, and not disenchanted, but discouraged, I'll say, when they changed the qualification. Because the first year they didn't make it a qualifying process. They just made it an application process.
Yeah.
And so when I did 6 shows last year, it was my pro debut year, and I thought I need to create a resume.
Mhm.
That's what my coach and I had said. We need to do a bunch of shows so that they'll want you there. And then right towards the end of that, they changed the qualification process to you have to win a 40 and over.
Yeah.
And I get it, there's so many of us and they need to narrow it down a little bit. But as a woman who's almost 53 years old, competing against and gone through menopause, and like I said, it changes everything. Hormones change your skin, texture, whether it's on your glutes or your stomach, it does thin things out, and um, your muscle bellies, everything changes.
Yeah.
And so to compete against a 40-year-old who hasn't gone through menopause, who in my eyes are still a baby, it's a very different playing field.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of time where I said, I don't know if I can do that, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to be compared. Uh, and I got over that self-limiting belief, and I trained my butt on this whole time, focusing on that because I want to prove that wrong. I want to be. I don't care if I'm the oldest one on that stage. I someday I will be on that stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love it. I love that. I love that you at first, found that disheartening, but then you just said, no, I'm gonna
That's right.
find a way, come
Yeah,
hell or high water.
that's
I
right.
love that. Yeah, that's what this
Yeah.
sport's all about
That's
too,
exactly right.
is,
Yeah.
just continuing to get to improve and defy, everything that maybe, and some of those, like, again, they're self-limiting beliefs because nobody said
Yes.
you can't win it, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you've had such success that that title could be yours. So
Yes.
I
So
have no doubt
I
we're
just
gonna
need to
see you
win a
there.
40 now. So that's the goal, and I haven't set, so I told you a show that I might do, which maybe girl power, but because of everything that's been going on in my world, um, personally with my husband and stuff, and maybe a bunch of other things going on. No pressure, right? I'm just like, if I make it great, if I don't, we'll do the next one. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I'm approaching it right now. But I'm going to work really hard until that day comes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's lots of time because we're recording this episode now. It's the beginning of April. You
Mhm.
have 4 months.
Well,
That's
Girl
so,
Power is April 26th.
but I mean, the qualification goes
Oh, yeah.
until,
Mhm.
was it
Yeah, we have 4 months.
August
It's
4th, right?
the first, yeah, week of
Yeah,
August. Yeah.
girl,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's
I don't
happening.
care if I
Just put it in the
win like
universe.
the end of July, I'm hopping on that plane. I don't care.
I love
Yeah.
it. Oh,
You're
that's
Yeah.
awesome. No, I
you're
think
So,
so
that's really great.
inspiring. Like,
oh, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just kind
well,
of crazy, driven.
we're all
And that's
crazy.
You're
it.
driven. You're
Yeah.
driven.
Yes.
We're all a good blend of driven and crazy.
Yes, I
It's
think
just
so.
which day is more than the
Yeah.
other. So, okay, well, we're almost at an hour, which that flew by. I
Wow.
love
Mhm.
talking to you. I told this to
Yeah.
Vanny the other day when we were setting this up. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if me and Marissa like just became best friends, but I just
Yeah.
love her. She's so great. So I really appreciate your time today and sharing all this with her. You're such an inspiration. I'm so excited for this episode to air, but
Mhm.
I would just sort of like to know, what is like your number one tip for somebody who is just getting started in their fitness journey, and maybe they're, in their midlife phase, and
Yeah.
sort of hearing all of the things, all the, like, no, but because of this you can't, da, 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 da. What would be your number one tip for somebody?
In terms of competing,
Just it to get them to, so if they want to get on stage and they want to be successful in completing that journey of getting on stage, what would you tell them?
honestly, the very first thing that pops into my brain is posing. I
Mhm.
think not enough people understand how important that is. I have seen women who are amazing posers. Body might be lacking a little bit, right? Their physique might not be what girl number B or girl letter B is going to be. She might have a better physique, but girl A knows how to present it better and she'll win. I just think that I started posing before I even started my first prep.
Really?
Mm.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I went, and Jessica Wilson, the current reigning Miss Olympia, thank you to her. She put on a posing seminar and it was local. So I went and hadn't even, hired a coach, I just wanted to start learning because I had been to enough shows and knew that posing wasn't going to be easy.
Mhm.
And so she was my very first posing coach. And then, down the road, Nikia Hovey really helped me, especially right going into Masters Nationals and getting my pro card. I was posing every day.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't suggest doing what I did like as long as I did, but I definitely, I think a little bit every day in your heels, not with socks on. You know, I think perfect practice makes perfect, right? I just
Mhm.
think really getting your rhythm down, really feeling your personality through your posing, feeling comfortable in your body and in those movements, making it muscle memory. Because when you have that, getting on stage is a lot easier. I think when you are so not comfortable with the posing, then it lends to being more nervous up on stage, right? You just need to do it enough times so that it becomes muscle memory, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
I think that's great
So for
advice.
me, that's the biggest one, just because it makes you feel comfortable. It makes you feel beautiful. It makes you feel, sexy. Whatever your personality is comes through in that posing. And you
Yeah.
really need to learn to exhibit that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's great advice. And I think that is like hard for people. Like I've had that experience like you did walking into Masters Nationals and being like, what am I doing here? And people always say, you look so comfortable on that stage. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
freaking
Yeah.
out inside,
Yeah. Right.
honestly. Like I'm not really that comfortable up there. Um, but I think practice is key. And then you also said like in our little like preamble that like you love dancing. And so
Yes.
when you
Yeah.
go up there, it just feels like a dance.
It's
Is that
just
kind of
dancing.
how you look at
That's
it?
exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's choreography,
Mhm.
and it's just learning what choreography works for you to enhance your positives, your attributes, and minimize the things that you don't want to show,
Yeah.
Right. And how cool that
Yeah.
like we get to do that. Like I always think that I sometimes have like a like pinch me. Is this really happening? Like is this
Yeah.
really my life? Like I get to go and do this and I am around all these amazing women who've had these
Yeah.
incredible journeys and
Totally.
they've
We
accomplished so
all have a
much.
story.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just I think it's amazing.
It
So,
is amazing. And I feel
yes.
so lucky every day.
Yes. Well,
Crying.
I feel so lucky that we got to have this time with you today.
Yeah. Thank you
And
so
before
much.
we wrap, is there anyone that you'd like to shout out or thank, sponsors, coaches, anything like that?
Well, you know what? First and foremost, I want to definitely thank my husband.
Yes.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have done anything. I would have not done any of this without his support. And he supports me every single day. He leaves me the little notes around the house,
Oh,
just Tokyo, here we come, or it could be, like he's
I
just the
love it.
sweetest man ever. Yeah. And he just wants to push me along. My coach, Kim Otto has always been there. And, he's a good shoulder to lean on. And
Hmm.
so I want to thank him. And then also, I just signed with became an affiliate for Bio Longevity Labs. So one of the things I didn't talk about before was, uh, there's so much out there now in terms of supplements and peptides and you name it. But I do believe in a lot of them, and like BPC 157. I could go down the list, but as we get older and our aches and pains are there, things like that have really helped make pushing hard in the gym easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I truly believe in this company. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it because I'm not just a promoter for the sake of promoting or making
Mhm.
money. It's not
Yeah.
about the making money for me. It is, I believe in their products and I
Yeah.
use their products. And then when they reached out to me, I was like, oh heck yeah,
Yeah.
because they're great. And so it's Bio Longevity Labs, and I have a code, and it's Marissa Ross. If anybody wants to give it a shot, or if you have questions and want to know what products I use to help me with my recovery and stuff, I'm more than happy to answer
Oh,
any
cool.
questions.
And
Yeah.
we'll make sure to link
We'll
everything in the
link
show
that
notes
below.
below for any of you guys
Okay,
listening. You'll find everything that we're talking about in the show notes below.
excellent. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much for having me. It's been a
Oh,
lot of
it's
fun,
been
and
a treat. I can't wait to
once
meet
again,
you in
very humbling.
person. I hope that our paths will cross at a
Yes.
stage
Oh no,
this
we're gonna share
spring.
stage. Yeah.
I know, and I'll be cheering for you. And
I'll be
this has
cheering for
just
you
been
too.
awesome to
I'll
learn
be
more
cheering
about
for both
you.
of you.
Yes,
Yay.
thank you, Mandy.
I know. I'm like, I'll be here cheering.
And I'll
Uh,
take all the positive vibes. So,
yes.
send prayers my way because I need them all.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much. And you guys, thank you for listening. Bye.
Yes, see you next week. Bye, everyone.